In a small kingdom nestled between mountains and the sea, lived two lifelong friends, Elias and Kabir. Their bond was legendary, their dreams intertwined. Elias was a sculptor of immense talent, his creations so graceful they seemed to breathe. Kabir, a humble stone merchant, possessed a unique gift. He could read the soul of every rock, sensing its hidden strengths and secret flaws. One day, the king announced a grand competition. The challenge: to sculpt a statue embodying the kingdom's eternal spirit. The prize: the title of Royal Artist for Life. Elias was ecstatic. He chose a magnificent block of white marble that shimmered like freshly fallen snow. Kabir watched as his friend poured his heart and soul into the work, his passion burning day and night. As the statue neared completion, it was nothing short of breathtaking. Its features were delicate. Its robes seemed to billow in an unseen wind. But as Kabir studied the base, his heart sank. He spotted a tiny, hairline fracture, a flaw that ran deep into the core of the stone. He knew that, over time, the immense weight of the marble would cause the entire masterpiece to shatter. Kabir was torn. He knew how much this meant to Elias. Telling him the truth would break his heart and could very well shatter their friendship. Yet, he remembered a timeless wisdom. An honest suggestion is the right of your companions, and a true friend never stays silent in the face of hidden danger. That evening, he walked into the studio. He told Elias he had to stop, that he must reinforce the base or start over. The stone was compromised. Elias exploded in a fury. He accused Kabir of jealousy, of trying to sabotage his moment of glory. In his rage, he banished Kabir from his sight, vowing never to speak to him again. The day of the unveiling arrived. The court was assembled, the king mesmerized. He called the statue the finest work he had ever seen, but as he reached out to touch it, a low groan echoed through the hall. A massive crack webbed across the marble base. Before the horrified crowd, the entire sculpture collapsed into a cloud of dust and rubble. Elias stood frozen in shame, the weight of his pride crushing him. His ambition had blinded him to the one person who truly cared for his legacy. Suddenly, a hand rested on his shoulder. It was Kabir. He wasn't there to gloat. In his hands, he held a bag of tools and a new plan. He had spent the last week preparing a hidden support structure, just in case his friend would listen. Tears streamed down Elias' face as he apologized. He realized then that a companion who tells you a hard truth is 1,000 times more precious than a crowd that only knows how to clap. Together, they rebuilt the monument. This time, it stood for 1,000 years, a testament not just to art, but to the power of an honest friendship. Their story became a legend. The king himself ordered the broken pieces of the first statue to be preserved in a museum, a reminder that even the most beautiful things will fall if they are not built on the foundation of truth. Elias never again began a project without first asking Kabir to inspect the stone. He had learned that the ego is a dangerous architect, one that sees only beauty and ignores the cracks beneath. Years later, a young artist asked Elias the secret to his success. The old sculptor didn't talk about tools or talent. He simply pointed to Kabir, sitting nearby, and said his greatest masterpiece wasn't made of stone. It was the bond he shared with a man brave enough to tell him he was wrong, even when it hurt to hear it. The world is full of people who will tell you what you want to hear, he explained. But only a true friend will tell you what you need to hear to save you from yourself. As the sun set over their workshop, they stood together, two pillars of strength, proving that a friendship forged in honesty is the one thing the storms of time can never break. Their story traveled far beyond the kingdom, reaching students from all over the world who came to learn the art of building something that truly lasts. Elias would teach them that a mind without a critic is like a ship without a rudder, destined to crash against the rocks of its own arrogance. Kabir would show them that the strength of a wall isn't in the paint, but in the honesty of the bricks underneath. As the years turned into decades, their hair turned as white as the marble they once fought over, but their bond only grew stronger. They had survived the greatest test of all. The truth that cuts like a knife, but heals like a medicine. When offered gold to keep their secrets, they chose to share their wisdom instead. If you have just one person in your life who dares to look you in the eye and say, "You are making a mistake," they would say, "Then you are richer than any emperor." Flattery is a debt you have to repay, but an honest suggestion is a gift that keeps you safe. Day grew old. not as master and apprentice, but as two halves of a single heart. When their time came, they left behind a city built on mutual respect, where every dreamer knew that to love someone is to tell them the truth, and to be a companion is to be a guardian of their character. Even today, when the wind blows through the ancient arches of that kingdom, it seems to whisper their lesson. An honest suggestion is the right of your companions, a light that never goes out. The legend didn't end with their passing. Their disciples carried the philosophy across the earth, teaching that a true companion isn't someone who just walks beside you in the sunlight, but someone who holds a lamp for you in the darkest tunnels of your own making. The great hole where the statue fell was transformed into a sanctuary, a place where people would swear an oath of absolute honesty to one another. They understood that a kingdom built on flattery is a house of cards, while a friendship built on truth is a fortress of iron. Even in our modern world, where so many seek the quick applause of the crowd, the story of Aryan and Kabir is a powerful reminder. One sincere correction from a loyal friend is worth more than 1 million likes from people who truly know your heart. Their wisdom continues to inspire anyone brave enough to speak the truth, and anyone humble enough to listen, because the path to greatness is never a solo journey. It is a shared walk, where the honest suggestion is the ultimate rite of companionship, and the only way to ensure the masterpiece of your life never falls to pieces in the end. Thanks for watching. The story of Aryan and Kabir reached the hearts of a modern world, obsessed with perfection and terrified of failure. Their tale taught everyone that a mistake identified by a friend is actually a victory in disguise. The real failure isn't a broken statue, but a silent companion who watches his brother fall without saying a word. This legend became a manual for every leader, every parent, and every young person who sought to build something that would uncrumble when the winds of reality began to blow. As the sun of history set on their era, the names of the two friends weren't just carved into stones or written in books. They were etched into the very conscience of humanity. So whenever a person feels the sting of a hard truth from a loved one, they remember that this pain is the healing touch of a surgeon, not the wound of an enemy. The spirit of the honest suggestion remains the most powerful tool in the workshop of life, where we are all sculptors of our own character, and our friends are the mirrors that keep us from carving our own destruction. Their message of sincerity would never fade, because a truth spoken in love is the only thing that is truly immortal. The right of a companion is the bridge that carries us across the river of our own mistakes and into the light of a better tomorrow. This lesson became the gold standard for every relationship, proving that the most beautiful thing a person can possess is a grand monument or a world of wealth, but a single friend who loves them enough to tell the truth, even when the world is shouting lies. As the sunset of their lives finally came, the two old friends sat together on the very bench where they had first argued. They looked at the city they had helped build with honesty and grit, and they smiled, knowing their work was done and their message was safe. The echoes of their laughter and the weight of their wise words remained a permanent part of the wind, reminding every soul to never be afraid of the truth from a friend. The legend of the architect and the stone merchant was complete, leaving behind a world a little more honest and a lot more strong. The two pillars of Oak Haven showed us all that a friend who corrects you is the greatest treasure you will ever find. And so, the sun finally set on the lives of Elias and Julian, leaving behind a city that stood taller, not because of the steel in its buildings, but because of the honesty in its people. They spent their final days on a bench overlooking the harbor, where the Sky Reach Tower stood as a symbol of their reconciled brotherhood. As Elias looked at the massive structure, he turned to Julian and whispered that his greatest achievement was never the blueprints or the fame, but having a companion brave enough to break his ego to save his soul. Julian simply smiled and replied that a true friend is like a lighthouse. It doesn't move for the ship, but it warns it of the rocks so it can find its own way home. With those final words, the two old architects closed their eyes for the last time, leaving a legacy that taught the world that while flattery may build a palace of sand, only the honest suggestion of a companion can build a fortress of truth that time can never destroy. To have a friend who tells you the truth is to have the greatest treasure on earth. That is where the story of the Mirror of Truth finally reaches its peaceful and eternal end. Thanks for watching. Your time is coming. Keep believing. Keep fighting. Don't just watch. Go out and prove them wrong. Thank you for being part of the journey. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.